Before we start the tutorial proper, I want to apologize for it. It isn't clean. Now by that I don't mean it's dirty, but simply it's not smooth. For some reason, anything that could go wrong did go wrong when producing it. I missed some steps live when working in Illustrator, and when recording Glowforge events, previously tested cut settings failed, which meant video had to be tossed, and that happened twice. Also, I forgot to stop screen recording one time with the result that the capture failed. So I've cobbled together what I could to get the tutorial put together. It works, but again, it's not clean. The positive is that I'm posting the project file below, so if the video doesn't work for you, you've got the file. Okay, enough said, let's get on with the tutorial. Alright, welcome guys and gals to Freaking Laser Designs and Tutorials. I'm Jonathan Vincent, and today we're going to take a look at how to make a wooden sword or dagger. We'll start in Illustrator and we'll end up in the Glowforge. Let's do it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is go to File and New. And here I'm going to pick my Glowforge Illustrator template. You can download that for free on my website at freakinlaserdesigns.com. It's the first video, I believe. Let's go ahead and get this ready. Alright, so the first thing I usually do is go to Layers and create some guides. So we'll call this Guides, or we'll do Guides, why not? We'll be plural. Okay, so let's pull out a couple of marks. I'm going to bring one inch in, 1 inch in, and then I'll bring one to here, one in the middle to 6 inch. There we go. I have snap to grid on, and sometimes it doesn't exactly snap where it needs to. And that's actually kind of important, at least if you follow my operation. I tend to use snap to grid, and in that default Glowforge template, snap to grid will be on. Sometimes you need to take snap to grid off, but on the whole I find it pretty useful to have to keep things evened up, especially when we're going to be doing what we're doing here, where we're making half a design and then duplicating it, and we want everything to measure out correctly. In any case, our guides are now set. Basically, I've set some I set the guides in here because the Glowforge doesn't give you a full 20 inches. So I want to make sure that I'm not making it too large and then have to resize it in the Glowforge. So I'm bringing it in an inch here, an inch over here. And then later on, what we're going to be doing with this sword is we'll have two outside pieces and an inside piece. The inside piece is going to have a little tab. The actual sword blade will have a tab, and I want to make sure that we have enough length here for the tab, which will be a 2-inch tab that will be sandwiched in between the two basically grips of the sword. So here are our guides, and I'm going to go ahead and lock those. Then I'll create a new layer, and now we'll work on our blade. Alright, so let's grab our pen tool, and we'll put a mark here, and then I'm basically going to go up about 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 little squares, and I'm going to bring it all the way down to here. Click, go halfway, and all the way back down, left click, and we've basically completed the circuit. That's done. We want to highlight the blade, make sure we give it a stroke. I'm going to give it a red. Red, at least when I use the Glowforge, I always use the red as one of my cuts. So there we have half our sword blade, so we're going to copy it. Now you can either go to Edit, Copy, and then go to Paste in Front, or you can just use keyboard shortcuts. So in this case, I'm going to highlight it and hit Control-C, then Control-F, and then I will go to Transform, Object Transform, Reflect, and I'm going to reflect it horizontal. Then I'm going to use my arrow keys, and because we have snap to grid, it should snap right in place. So now we basically have our sword blade, so we're going to highlight both of those. So get your selection tool here, highlight those, go to Pathfinder, and we want to unite these shapes. So now we have our sword blade. Now at this point, we're going to click our sword blade, and we're going to go to Object, Path, Offset Path, -0.15, and instead of displaying red, we're going to make it blue. Blue I'm going to use as a score line. Okay. And let's see, what do we want to do? I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit. And I'm going to grab the line tool. I'm going to start at the tip. Excuse me. I'm going to click and hold down and drag it all the way down to here. And now we have a blue line going down the middle. It'll be a score line. It'll be scored. And then I'm going to go to the eraser tool here and click it, and then drop down to the scissor tool. And I'm going to go to the top of this little square and click, and then to this one, click, hit the selection tool, hit the delete key, and there we have a little, we cut that little part out of the score. I think it looks a little different, a little better than it all meeting up together. So basically the sword will be cut out, the sword blade, and this will be all scored, the blue lines, which gives it a little fake 3D look. Alright, so now we want to come over here to the layer palette, create a new layer, and temporarily I'm going to lock the blade and go to the pen tool. So let's start in this corner and bring it to here, to here, to here. And notice it's still blue. This is going to be a score line, but I'm also going to duplicate it and temporarily lock that one and hide it. I'm going to be active on this top layer, and what we want to do is grab the gradient tool, start here, bring it to the center, and that didn't work, so I need to double click this, excuse me, and tell it what type of gradient. We want a linear, and then we'll mess around with this. I don't know if I want it all black or not. Let's see. Yeah, that's good. And then what I want to do here is to make sure that there's no score, because we're already going to be scoring it separately. So no score line, but we want the gradient to still exist. And before we close out of this, what we'll end up doing is rasterizing this. That way it will be set as an engrave in the Glowforge interface. And so that way, it'll kind of give another little 3D look to the blade, or at least a slight 3D look, where it starts lower in the dark areas and moves up to the white at the center of the blade. Okay, so let's see where we are. Let's go ahead and hide the future rasterized triangle here and bring up the other one and unlock it. And let's move on in here. Let's unlock our blade. And actually I'm going to highlight the blade here. Let's go back to our scissor tool. And I basically want to get rid of this part of the score line. Let's see if that did it. No. Okay, I think that's going to do it now. So now if I click here and hit delete, it'll take away that. And then I want to take away this middle area here. So let's go back to the scissors. And I just click the delete key. All right, so that's all gone. Okay, so basically we have a score. And then on top of that, after the score gets done in the Glowforge interface, it will then take this rasterized layer and engrave it. Okay, so those are all taken care of. So let's go ahead and lock these. Or actually, let's not lock them yet. Let's zoom out and start working on our grip. Okay, so we want to highlight this blade, and we're going to rotate it. Make sure you hold the shift key down, and make sure our snap to grid is still on. Okay, and basically we want to line it up to our center line here. Let's just bring it up temporarily to give ourselves a good room to work. Create a new layer. We'll call this grip, and we'll lock all these other ones so we can't mess them up accidentally. Okay, so let's start working on our grip. So we'll go back to our pen tool. I'll make sure this is highlighted. Okay, we'll go to our pen tool, and actually I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. Alright, so I have the pen tool. I'll start here. And I'm going to go over probably about 1, 2, 3, maybe about 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 3 squares down. I'll click that. I'll go, let's say, another 3 squares down. Back to the center and back up. Okay, and I forgot to get rid of the gradient, so I'm going to highlight this and just get rid of that, and then give us a cut line again. Okay, so we have this cut, and now we want to hit our shape tool here, and we want to get the ellipses. Hold shift, that way it'll make a circle that's proportional, and that looks pretty good. And now here we'll want to go to view and take off temporarily snap to grid and bring this over so it's pretty much centered. Okay, now let's put snap to grid back on before we forget. Hold shift and click the other part of the grip. So now both of these should be selected. We'll go to our pathfinder and we will click unite. Okay, we'll make sure this is all selected, and now again you either go to edit copy and then edit paste in front, or just highlight it, hit Control C, Control F. We'll go to transform reflect. This time we're going to do it on the vertical. Bring it over with your arrow keys. Hold shift. Click the other side of the grip. They're both selected now. We go to our pathfinder and hit unite. And now we're starting to work it out. You're starting to see it here. Okay, so we'll click this and let's go to offset path again, and we'll keep it at the negative 0.15. This time what we want to do is put a dark blue score, go to our layer here, and this particular path I want to duplicate it. And we can either, I'm pretty sure, now I may be wrong on this and I may end up regretting that, I think it can, I'm a little confused here. I can't remember what I did before, but I think we're just going to fill it in black, okay, and we'll take rid of the blue line on it. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is going to color in, and it will basically engrave without being a raster, this particular black. As long as it's, you know, one solid color, it should be pretty dark. All right, so we'll keep it like that. So what should be going on is it will do a very dark black, and then it'll give a nice little score line around it just to kind of crisp the outline out a little bit. All right, so we have that going on, the top part of the grip. Now let's move on. Let's go back to the shape here. Let's get us a rectangle. Actually, let's do a rounded rectangle. Okay, and we're going to start inside here. Inside the, I forget what you call the top part of the grip there, but we're going to bring this down probably about 7 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is it 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess that's about 7. All right, and we'll let it go. Get rid of that color, give it a red cut. Get our selection tool here, and we will copy it, and we'll paste in front. We'll bring it over. Okay, now these two are together, and what we want to do is, you know, I tell you what, actually, let's forget all this. Let's delete this out. I don't like the way that's going to work. What we'll do is just do one rounded rectangle here. So again, we'll start in the center. we'll bring it down 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and bring it over. This is all going to be proportional because we're snapping to the grid, so we don't have to do this whole mirror image thing. All right, so there we go. We've got that. Now, what I want to do now is, actually, let's bring it down. Okay, so now what we want to do is go to Object, Path, Offset Path, negative 0.15, and let's up the stroke just a bit here to about 6. Okay, and then we want to keep doing that. So path, offset path, path, offset path, path, offset path. And we're almost done here. Basically, we just want to keep doing it until we fill in all the areas. Okay, that looks pretty good. And we'll shift click on each one of these 5-point lines. We'll go to Object, Expand, and we'll give it a black color. Okay, so there's our inside of the grip. All right, so now what we're going to want to do, and I know there's an easier way to do this, unfortunately I've kind of forgotten here off the cuff, so I'm going to go here to a little rectangle. I want to close this in. I don't want this little area here, so I'm going to basically just make a little square and give it a score line and get rid of the color. And same thing here. Okay, so I'm going to get my selection tool at this point, click that little square and the rounded rectangle and the other square and the top part of our grip here, and then we're going to go to the Pathfinder and click Unite, and that did not work the way I wanted it to, so we're going to back up here, and what we're going to do is try it again here. Zoom in. Okay, now we should be good. So I'm just going to copy and paste that, bring it over here. Now, this is really a backward way of doing things. I should have planned this a little better. But in any case, now we're going to do the same thing we did before. We'll get the selection tool, we'll hit the top grip, this rectangle. Remember, holding Shift key to do this. Click this, Unite, and then we'll get our selection tool here and delete these out. We don't need those. Okay, we're almost done. We'll pull it out. Zoom into this area. Now we'll get our pen tool. We'll go up about 2 or 1 here. Let's just go here. All right, and we'll bring it out, go down to the center, to here. Okay, get our selection tool. Make sure the entire thing is selected. Control C, Control F, Object, Transform, Reflect on the vertical, bring it over with the arrow keys, hold Shift, select both, go to Pathfinder, hit Unite. Now go ahead and click this here. So all these are selected. That means the grip and then basically the bottom of the grip. Click Unite. All right, so now we pretty much have our grip taken care of. We've already done our blade. So the only thing we want to do now is make our sandwich piece. So we'll go back to our layers and we'll look at our grip here, and we have our main grip right here. So we're going to duplicate that, and just to make it a little different here, I'm going to give it a different stroke. So we'll do this one as in an orange color. Okay, temporarily, so I can see everything. I'm going to first one, I'm going to label these so I don't get confused. Orange. Actually, we'll call it the sandwich. If I can spell sandwich right. And we're going to hide all this other stuff right now. Just to make it easy on us. Okay, let's unlock our blade. Next, I'm going to hide the whole grip at this point. All right, so we're going up to our blade here. And make sure the blade is highlighted. And we want to draw a rectangle. So let's bring it in about 2 squares, or actually we'll do 3 squares. Okay, and then we'll bring it down 2 inches. Okay, and then we're going to take that rectangle, drag it down here to duplicate it, and one of these rectangles we're going to bring back up right under our sandwich. Okay, now let's go ahead and hide the grip for right now. So we're just focusing on our blade. Let's grab that rectangle, grab our selection tool here, hold shift and hit the outside cut of the blade. So now we have the outside cut of the blade and the little rectangle that we made, and we're going to go to Pathfinder and unite those. Okay, so now we have a blade with an actual tab on it, and we'll go back to our layers and let's lock and hide our blade and go back to our grip, our sandwich. So we see we have the sandwich, which I've now selected, and then we'll go over here to the rectangle, go to our Pathfinder, and instead of hitting unite, we're going to hit divide. Okay, so now it's divided, so we'll go up to the top of the rectangle, and let me zoom in here real quick. We'll use the direct selection tool here, the white one. Highlight the top, hit the delete key, and now that's it. Now we have a sandwich piece that the tab can fit into. Alright, so at this point we pretty much have everything taken care of. We'll go back to our layers and let's open up our grip, make everything visible again. So we have everything with our grip, looking good. So we'll get that grip, we'll hit the selection tool, we'll have everything selected. We're going to go ahead and turn it. And bring it over here, kind of center it up. Okay, that looks great. And we'll go ahead and hide that temporarily. We'll go ahead and hit our blade and unlock everything. So we'll hit this little triangle here, this one here, which is the score, and then the blade. We're going to grab it and flip it, bring it all back down, make sure it's all centered up. Okay, so now at this point, everything is pretty much taken care of. Now in the finished product, because I will have this available for download, the project file as a freebie, a courtesy, I'll go ahead and clean this up and give all the names, proper names, so it's a little easier to follow. But this is basically it now. You're going to go, we'll take it into the Glowforge, and basically what we're going to want to do is print out our blade. So the red, let's go ahead and make this a little easier to follow. What's going to happen here is this blade, which somehow in all this I ended up getting orange. Let's go ahead and make it back red. This blade is going to be cut out, and then it's going to score. And actually what you're going to want to do really is do the scores first. Always do your scores, then do your cuts last, okay, in case something gets killywampered. So we'll score the blue of the blade, and then around the triangle. Then I would go ahead and engrave this section here, and then the final will be the cut. All right. Then in your operations, you'll focus on the grip. So the easiest thing is to go ahead and cut out the orange sandwich piece first, okay, which will be this section here. All right, so that'll cut out, and then you'll focus in terms of the Glowforge. You'll focus on the rest of the grip, which will, you'll engrave all these little areas, and then you'll cut out the rest. I hope that makes sense. I'm kind of rambling on here, but basically, this is it. We'll take it into the Glowforge, and we'll see how things go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go to the upload button here and upload our file. Then we're going to go to the unknown button and click it and put in the thickness of our material. I'm using a 1/4 inch oak, so I'll go ahead and put that in here and click submit. Then I'm going to pick a template, thick cherry plywood, so I'll have all the defaults in place. And then I'm going to reshuffle my operations to get them in the proper order. I'm going to focus on the sword, so that means I'm going to go to the handle here and click ignore, ignore, ignore all the way down until I'm left with just the engrave on the sword along with the score, along with the cut. So I'll go up to the engrave and I'll click HD graphic. Then we'll go to this right here where it's a cut because it needs to be a score, make it a score. And then the cut, we're going to go to manual and drop the speed down just a little bit to 130 and make sure the focus height is 0.25, 1/4 inch. And let's go to the score and the engrave and also go to manual and make everything 1/4 inch. Now of course we could have not picked the thick cherry plywood and have just used the manual and everything would have been okay. It would have been 1/4 inch just by clicking unknown and being done with it. But I picked the template because all the other settings are right. So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other. Anyway, let's double check all these, make sure they're right. And when they're right, we'll go ahead and resize the sword to match the width of our wood. And so let's go ahead and do that. Let's resize and make it where it just fits. Now you might still have to be pretty careful here, because at least in the case of my Glowforge, the camera still doesn't necessarily put everything in its proper place. So I always give a little bit of latitude when I'm trying to place something. In any case, once you have it positioned, double check one more time and click print. And we'll get a little scan, prepare, speed it up, 6 minutes, 31 seconds. We'll see the big Glowforge button here flashing. We'll click it and we'll do a little time lapse so you can see it happen. All right, there he is, a score, a cut. You'll then flip the blade over and then go back to your Glowforge interface and ignore the cut. Then go back to the print button and click it. Let it do its thing, scan, prepare. Then we're going to go ahead and hit the Glowforge button again and watch another time lapse as the second side of the sword gets scored. Okay, at this point we're going to go to the sword areas and ignore those, and then re-enable all the grip pieces. So ignore, ignore. All right, now let's go to our grips and punch them all as proof grade, HD graphic. That's for the engrave. And then this will be our score. So we'll want to go over here and click the proof grade and score. And what you might want to do is to zoom in close so you can actually know which one is the engrave and score. It's kind of hard to see when it's pulled out. And then we'll go to this one, which is a cut, and we'll go to our proof grade, and then we'll go back into these and go to manual and make sure we put our focus height at 1/4 inch. And then when we finally get down to the cut, we're going to want to make that the speed 130, just like we did with the sword blade. And the reason I do it 130 is 160, it has problems cutting through. But if you lower the speed, it definitely does it. So again, make sure all your focus heights are correct at 1/4 inch. Double check everything. Once that's done, you're going to want to resize the grip and bring it over on the piece of wood that's blank, so we can go ahead and cut it out. Again, I'm double checking here. And the reason I'm double checking is because I've had problems. As I told you at the beginning of this video, anything that could go wrong while I was making this video did, and I don't want that to happen again for the 3rd or 4th time. Alright, so let's hit the print button. We're ready to go. Scan, prepare, 42 minutes, which is a long time. We'll go ahead and click the Glowforge button, and we're ready to go. Another time lapse. Alright, now what we want to do is position the grip on a new piece of wood. So this is the other side of the grip. So we need to get it in place, and then once we've got it in place, we'll go ahead and click the print button. It'll scan and prepare, and then of course we'll get ready to press our Glowforge button. Again, another whopping 42 minutes, so we'll press the button, and we'll watch another time lapse as we get the second part of the grip in order. Okay, at this point I had a problem with my software, so I was unable to record the Glowforge settings for the sandwich piece. Not a whole lot to it. Basically, you press ignore on all the grip pieces except for the sandwich piece, and then you go to the sandwich piece and have it as a proof grade cut. Make sure you put the thickness at 1/4 inch, and then put the power settings at 130 like we've been doing the whole time, and then hit print. Okay, it's a pretty quick cut, not a lot to it. That's why we're not using the whatchamadoodle, what do you call it, time lapse. Actually, I take that back. Let's go ahead and speed this up. Okay, after we've taken our pieces out of the Glowforge, we'll want to clean them up. So here I'm using denatured alcohol along with a toothbrush, and I simply just dip things in and clean it up. So we'll scrub, in this case, the sword. Scrub, 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 flip it over, do the same thing, wipe, scrub, wipe, scrub. It's, you just keep doing it until you get most of the junk off, and there is a lot of soot and grime. Do the same thing to the grip. And it's just kind of rinse and repeat until you feel like you've got it as clean as you want it. And of course, once you get it where you want it, you need to let it dry. And once it's dry, then at least what I did is I got a little bit of sandpaper. I forget what grit it was. I think it was about 400 grit. And I think I used a couple different grits between 400 and 800. Anyway, I just went over to kind of pull out the highlights in the grip handle, all the little fine areas. When you're finally done sanding, it's going to be time to piece it all together. Now you can use regular C-clamps to do this. In my case, I had some little clamp spools that I had made when a long time ago when I made a guitar, so I decided to use those because they had cork lined on the inside. I knew they'd be safe on the outside of the little sword dagger when I made it. So in any case, what you're going to want to do is put your glue, your wood glue, on the inside of the first grip and smear it with your finger or paintbrush if you have a paintbrush. Make sure it's even, because once we glue this together, we're going to want to see some spill out. Okay, when you press it, you'll see it spill out, and then of course we'll clean that up later. So here I'm pressing it all together and then getting my little spool and tightening it up, and then I'll go all the way around it with a lot of different spools, making sure that the glue comes out, and then making sure once I have them all pieced together that I get the glue cleaned up. We'll now speed this up and not belabor the point anymore. Okay, now that it's all together, it's time to clean up the spill. So here I have water and a paintbrush, and I just go ahead and paint it on the glue spill and kind of water it out, thin it out, and then once I've gotten that taken care of, then I get a little rag and wipe everything up. So you'll want to do that all the way around the whole thing. So we'll speed it up here, and basically we'll clean it all up. We'll take the spools off. We'll put glue on the new grip and tighten it all back up. Once everything's tight, we'll want to clean this up, clean the spill up. So I'll get my paintbrush over here and clean things up. And then after things are cleaned up, we'll want to go ahead and get the blade put in. And we'll do this in real time. I won't speed this part up once we get the blade in order. Okay, so we'll put a little dab of glue in the grip. And then we'll put a little dab of glue on each side of the sword here and rub it around with our finger, just like we did earlier. And we'll put it on the side also, not just the face. And then we'll position it in our grip. And once we do that and press it in, there'll be, again, some sort of spill out, but that's okay. We'll clean that up also, like so. And of course, once we thin it out, we want to wipe it up with our cloth. And we're pretty much done at this point. We'll put it down and make sure everything's secure, and then just let it dry. Once we're done with that, we'll disassemble and do any last minute sanding. Just trying to clean it up, maybe sand the sides if you want to try to clean those up. Where everything's sandwiched together, you may have some high points that you'll want to sand down and get it smooth. Take your time. Now here, in the case of this tutorial, I didn't really take too much time. You could get this super smooth and it would be pretty sweet. One other thing I did here at the end that I'm going to show you, and it really didn't do all that well, or it doesn't show up all that well, is on the handle I went ahead and got brown shoe polish and started using the shoe polish on the grip just to kind of give it a little different color. In any case, it's all up to you. So this is the final product. Not too bad. Remember, the project file is in the description below, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.